not exactly hidden. When dawn broke over Nodok City, it revealed a battle-scarred but unbroken town. Perhaps a quarter of its greenhouses were shattered and reduced to char, but over the ruins, the contents of those greenhouses had grown massive and had overrun the immediate area. The burned-out and hollowed buildings were held up by flowering vines and strange seams in the roads where places where the heavy wheels of armored vehicles just stopped. There was grieving. There was pain, but more than either was hope and relief. The rebuilding had already begun. Backs were straight rather than bent. Heads were held high rather than cowed. Death and doom had come for them in the night, and they had endured. They claimed to come from Baroness Tyr, Dorian states before shaking his head. They have plenty of her crests, but she's never had this kind of firepower casually lying around. Not to mention they had already lied to me more than once, providing passwords that triggered deletion or self-destruct protocols. Crests can be faked easily, Vernon states. I've done a lot of fast talking with the Empress for her to see the upsides of more proactive sorcerers. She wants this solved and is willing to look the other way. As far as she's concerned, this is an affair of this province and its neighbors and not an overall issue. If things get to the point where multiple cities start going dark, she's going to interfere with her princesses, so this needs to be kept controlled. And our city going dark isn't an issue, the mayor protests, and Vernon sighs. This is one small city on a massively populated planet. A planet with a people that outright worship combat. You tell me if that sounds like something for the overall ruler of the entire world to be worried about. The Empress is very hands-off with her ruling, Koga notes with narrowed eyes behind his glasses. She has to be. She's enormously powerful, yes, but if she were to start dancing on the toes of the nobility, they would unify to tear her down. Last time there was an Empress so proactive, her family was the one that ended up in power. Vernon then shrugs. Mostly because her family had a well-deserved reputation of everyone owing them some kind of favor. At the time, that included nearly half of the world's battle princesses and several sorcerers. The hard and soft power combined was enough for her ancestress to take the throne, something the family never forgot. She may have power, but the more she spends it, the more it will be resisted. Just say what the crown's reaction will be, Koga states in a frustrated tone. Keep the damage low, and there won't be one. This is indirect approval to deal with this mess ourselves. I got a lot of information on the local histories and maps for you guys. But I need to go. My children mean far more to me than another's vengeance. No offense, Madam Mayor, Vernon states. Do you have any idea how many people died last night? She demands in a rising fury at her people and their pain being dismissed. 4,813 civilians. Including the local guard, we get to 5,520. Add in the enemy combatants and that reaches 7,014. Vernon answers and she stares at him for a moment. He brings out his communicator. Here's all the information I was able to get. The Chars and I will be running interference in the capital and getting more information for you guys as we're able, Vernon says, and Koga brings out his own. The devices take only a moment to copy and transfer the information. I'd wish you good luck, but I'd rather you be skillful. That's the idea, Koga says as he checks to ensure there's no notice of corrupted files before pocketing the communicator. He offers Vernon a salute that's returned. Then Vernon is gone in a wood walk, already on the other side of the world. I couldn't sense him teleporting, the mayor says with a tinge of fear. It's his thing. He controls the axiom so well it doesn't have any reactions to his presence. Unless you're looking right at him, then he could be anywhere and doing anything at any time, Koga says, and the Apuk woman goes pale as she considers the implications of that. He's dug out his communicator again and sends copies of the information Vernon just gave him to everyone else in the village's registered group. All over the city, multiple men helping with cleanup and reconstruction check their pockets and soon have some fascinating information to peruse. As they continue to help people recover and heal, they start speaking to each other through the woods. The people of Nodok don't notice what they're up to. How could they? What they're doing is shifting the plant growths and extending the dark forest subtly. The grasses and leaves of the garden surrounding the palaces of nobility start to darken ever so slightly. They're more vibrant and healthy, as if they were watered and fertilized to perfection. The trees and vines capable of growing berries bloom and then grow fat and ripe fruit out of season, tempting small birds and animals to devour them, adding another voice to their instincts that promises more sweet berries and fruits for their cooperation. Animals are simple things. They rarely lie, even if they'll often bluff, but their senses are astounding, and no one thinks a songbird giving their choir best is something they need to be careful around. Less attention is paid to the small climbing rodents resting in branches or skittering up vines and bark alike for berries, seeds, and nuts. The altered plants also serve as places the sorcerers can simply vanish to at will to listen or spy themselves. Baroness Uthtir is clearly very heavily reliant on her axiom senses, as Koga, who uses nothing in the way of axiom for his stealth, is effectively invisible. There are no cameras, but instead lots of guards. But guards get distracted, turn their heads, and on occasion argue or chat or even joke. He pauses more than once to control his heart rate and personal temperature. These women are sensitive to the pheromones in human sweat. Any trace he leaves is one too many, and he'd rather be slow than spotted. He manages to get to her private office and starts to browse through things. He doesn't see an immediate pattern, but he makes copies of digital information and takes pictures of everything that's on parchment. Why parchment, though? Maybe the Baroness likes the traditional effects. Considering that the biggest decoration in the room was the Apuk equivalent of a family tree that traces things back to before the Apuk species were spacefaring, the Baroness is clearly very proud of her bloodline. He takes a picture of that too. The entire room is cased and back in its proper place before he pauses. Something niggles. Something is up, and he's only partially able to sense it. He adjusts his glass with a knuckle, and there's something almost... He can't really hear it, but he is hearing something. Something to the left. He slinks along to the wall and gives it some soft taps. Apparently, his instincts are right on the money, as his first tap to establish a baseline is in fact the odd area out. A bit more examining in that general area finds that a tiny amount of the floor trimming is ever so not flush with the others. He presses it in, and an entire section of the wall just swings in. Nin nin de gozaru mothafuka, he says with a wicked smile as he slips in. The passage is a little lower than is comfortable to him, but is easily wide enough for him to comfortable slip through. It's 3 steps long before opening into a small chamber. The door to the secret passage closes on its own, and he shrugs. There's a light source that uses only a trickle of axiom to cast bright light, and the room is tiny. The walls are covered in shelves with old, ancient books along them. The furniture is a side table, a podium, and a comfortable-looking easy chair. All handcrafted from the look of it. None of the old books have titles on the spines, and there's nothing on the podium. So he simply pulls one out at random, and then his eyebrows climb up when he sees the title and reads it out loud. The Maiden and the Sorcerer. A quick browse has it as either the most comprehensive historical document in existence or pure Harlequin romance. Considering Vernon and Miro Noir, it could honestly go either way. He tucks it back in place and then pulls out another from a different shelf. The Grasping Clause, a comprehensive guide to the history of the river fiefdoms. Much more interesting, but this seems to be more of a private study, or maybe a collection of classic or out-of-print books the family collected. This room is old news and therefore something to poke into later, not now. He replaces the book and starts to head down the passage. Knowing how to activate it the other way would be a smart thing to do. However, he hears something going on in the office beyond and instead leans up near the entrance, not touching it for fear of causing it to open in some unknown way, but listening hard. The shifting of the heavy parchment lets him know exactly where this person is, and the slumping into the chair with the sound of scales on leather lets him know it's an puck that's good and relaxed in this place, likely the baroness or a favored and trusted servant. Either way, this should be good if they're prone to airing their thoughts. They are not. There's a fair amount of tapping and a bit of scribbling, so she's going at both the parchment and the computer. Definitely someone trusted, which means he just needs to get a pair of eyes looking over their shoulder. But anything that would let him see would be too obvious in the axiom, and the window is poorly placed for another set of eyes to do the looking for him. He still brings a bird up anyways. The most wasted opportunities are the ones that are ignored or avoided. So he calls a songbird to sit on the railing outside the window and give a little performance. Even if he can't read the documents, the sight of the baroness in the office lets him know that this is a possible good outcome. The bird's sight isn't good enough to make out the words on the documents, though. They're more color and movement than detail-oriented. Still, he can barely make out the fact that it is the baroness in the office. She then checks something and stands up. Koga then contemplates something and nods to himself. He lets the bird go and slinks away from the doorway. He simply stands with his arms crossed, ready and waiting. Gathering information is one thing, but he's more than a spy, he's a sorcerer. He is a power unto himself, and it's time to assert it. He's not kept waiting long. "Hello, madam?" The resulting scream and shock as the baroness backs up makes his self-assured smile a great deal more genuine. He then starts growing the vines out from under his shirt to crawl up his skin and coil around his glasses and hair. "May I come in?" "What?" She then looks to the hallway and then reaches over to slam the secret door shut. Koga's eyebrows go up in amusement, and before he can do anything, he hears the office door open. "Ma'am, we heard a scream. What's wrong?" "What's wrong is that you're hearing things. Return to your post, or better yet, take a break. You're clearly overworked," she says to the guards, and there's a pause. "Thank you, ma'am," the guard says, and the door closes. Then the secret passage is opened again to Koga's amusement. "Who are you, and what are you doing in there?" Baroness Uftir hisses. "I am Daiki, a descendant of the Koga ninja clan. Koga, sorcerer of the Dark Forest for official matters," he says with a slight bow and a smile with a very large number of teeth. The Baroness pales. "Koga for short will serve. May I come in?" "I see, and why are you asking to come in?" she asks in a higher pitch of voice. "Well, I've checked the building blueprints, and according to official records, I'm not in your palace, am I? This place officially doesn't exist," Koga remarks, and she outright twitches in frustration. "So I ask again, may I come in, please? We have so much to talk about." "About what?" she asks, as her mind is clearly racing to figure something out. Koga resists the urge to cackle at her discomfort. This is an unseemly amount of fun. Nodok and the forces that not only tried to burn it down, but burn it down while wearing your symbol. Koga says, pulling out a pennant that had been strapped to the side of a tank and holding the damaged symbol of allegiance where it can be clearly seen flying the Baroness's colors. When a small child with torn-up feet runs sobbing into the dark forest, then there will be retribution. We're trying to contain the damage before there's a newer and crueler bone chewer wandering about. Koga is at a complete loss for words when Baroness Uthtir collapses bonelessly to the plush carpet below her.